Hi, everybody. I'm Connie Cola along with Jeff Hernandez, and we're realtors at the Connie Cola Group at Launch Real Estate in Scottsdale, Arizona, and we open doors in Arizona. So, our guest today is Kimber Lanning. She's the founder and the director of Local First Arizona. Kimber, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
So let's talk just a little bit about some of the challenges that are out there. Take us behind the scenes of the local businesses and tell us what you're seeing now as we're into about week 6 and 7 here.
Sure. So there's a wide variety of challenges that we're facing. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of pain and difficulty from small businesses all the way across Arizona. And it's important to note that, when the government says small business, they mean 500 and under employees. But when we say small business, we mean 50 and under. And primarily, we've been working with those in the 20 and under category with Local First Arizona. And so the challenges with the PPP, which is the payroll protection plan, which was designed by the federal government to get money into our small businesses. You've probably heard on the first rollout, it was very challenged because so many big companies came in and swooped up that money. And they ran out of money. And then the second round opened up, and we talked to banks that they had 58 businesses in the queue on the first day, and we're only able to get 7 of them through because the SBA website kept crashing. So I think there's several different things to look at. One is that here in Arizona, we had nearly 70% of our money deposited in non-local banks, and 3 of those very big banks hold 64% of Arizona's total deposits. And those banks were only working with businesses that had existing loans. When you couple that with the fact that they don't like lending less than $250,000, it automatically skewed the businesses that were able to access the funds to much bigger companies that were already, in relationship with those banks. So we worked hard to try to get a lot of those businesses that were with either Chase, Wells, or Bank of America to pivot to come over to community banks to get accounts open quickly so that they could apply for, and many have received funding through the smaller bank, which is a huge relief. We're still struggling with trying to see how businesses that have been completely shut down, those families are in real jeopardy of not being able to pay their personal bills, much less their business bills. It's important for people to realize that if those businesses close down, that's a whole other wave of families hitting the unemployment sector, which, if we can keep them afloat, if we can keep those businesses viable enough for them to go back to, that will be a huge saving grace as Arizona's economy begins to recover.
So let's talk about some of those that have been hit the hardest. Some of those that have been hit the hardest, where would you say, is it the restaurant sector? Where are we seeing the most impact?
Restaurants and hospitality have been hit especially hard. In fact, the restaurants, many people are just trying to put some steps in place for them to even think about reopening. The overhead in functioning a restaurant is so high. You're not going to go back into a restaurant and expect mediocre service. So how do they possibly bring back folks not knowing if and when the public is going to be comfortable coming in? So, we're looking at a wide variety of technology to make it so that servers can cover a larger area. We're looking at everything we can to help restaurants effectively manage costs. I mean, there's no point in them reopening if they can't be profitable. Mm-hmm. So nobody is going to reopen a business that's just losing money. And so how do we help them get to a profitable place? That's where everyone's head is right now.
What do you see, Kimber, as the short-term and long-term challenges as we come out of this COVID-19 epidemic?
Mm-hmm. So at Local First, we're putting together a 3-step plan to help with small businesses. And the first phase is where we clearly are right now, is called triage, which is just trying to save as many small businesses as we can. Number 1 is capital and access to capital. Number 2 is figuring out how to help them negotiate and prioritize bills, negotiate rents, negotiate utility bills, and who gets paid first. helping our small businesses think through that process. And then as we switch into recovery, we're going to be helping businesses think about how they can pivot. What does reopening post-COVID even look like? For retailers, how much of your business is going to shift from what used to be typical walk-in to either curbside pickup or mail order permanently? Like, it's not coming back. And then there's the compounding of, businesses that have dated materials. Imagine a bookstore with an entire magazine rack with everything is February's magazine, right? Or you closed in February and had winter styles and you're going to open in June. You've got to come up with the capital to to bring your business up to speed, and that's where people are lacking. They don't have that money because they've spent their savings just on rent and utilities and maybe a handful of employees. So, and then the third and final phase is resiliency. How do we make sure we don't get into this place again, which is we need a more inclusive financial system. We need to deglobalize the food system. Big picture ticket items. Move Your Money will be our leading charge to try to get more businesses and individuals and even our governments to move their money out of those big banks that failed our small business sector so badly.
Mm-hmm. What for you are the other big challenges? Take us kind of behind the scenes just with what you're dealing with as the founder and director of Local First. What are your biggest fears, and what do you see as the greatest pendulum shift to goodness when this is over?
Mm-hmm. So, an immediate crisis is that many families spent everything they had to get through April, and now they don't have money left for May. So we're going to start seeing an uptick in evictions and defaults. So people need to understand there's two parts to it. So it's one thing to demand no evictions, but it's another thing to recognize that those landlords are going to then turn in default on their loans. And that's not good for anyone, because then you've got commercial buildings that are just owned by a bank or a mortgage-backed security somewhere else, and that's a loss of local control. So our goal is two-part. One, yes, we want to prevent evictions, but two is we need to get some sort of troubled debt relief for our commercial property owners that are willing to keep their tenants in place. So it has to be connected. If they receive the relief, it has to be demonstrated that it's passed on to the tenant. And so it has to be a multi-pronged approach in order for it to be effective. Mm-hmm. What am I most optimistic about, which I think was the second part of your question? I wouldn't say I'm optimistic, but I am, I guess, appreciative and excited by the innovation happening in the small business sector. The breweries that pivoted and they're making hand sanitizer, the businesses that are selling subscription services, the great little tea shop that created a gift box called the 31 Days of Tea. There's so many different small businesses that are doing their best to be innovative, to get money in the door. It's not enough, but it has been really rewarding to be able to see so much innovation occurring at one time.
Is it your opinion, Kimber, that at some point we're going to get back to business as usual, or do you see a shift in the way that local businesses need to conduct business in order to survive and to thrive in the future?
So I definitely am not an alarmist, but I would say that we are not going back to business as usual. We are a nation forever changed, a world forever changed. And that means that, sure, things will get better when there is some sort of immunization available. But even then, I think we're going to have significant changes. So more and more people are going to be buying online, and we need to localize that as much as we possibly can and work to provide people online opportunities that keep their dollars at home. If we continue to shift money to Amazon, that first of all, let me just say that the company needs to be broken up. They are violating antitrust laws. And one of the things we're advocating for is that Amazon should be broken up. But nonetheless, they extract wealth from communities, and they don't, they don't treat their employees well. They don't create high quality, diverse jobs in communities. And so that is not a solution. We need to find localized solutions. We can't really even imagine what dining out is going to be. Part of the excitement of dining out was being in a room full of folks and the energy in the room. And we just simply do not know that is ever going to return. We certainly hope that it will, but it's hard to see a future in that right now.
May 15th is the next possible date for opening tentatively. What are your thoughts on that date? Is it too soon or is it too late?
I think that it's just simply too soon to tell. I think that we're going to have to take a wait and see. I think that it does make sense that retailers could be offering more than areas where you have a high concentration of people expected. I like you, I'm hearing a wide variety of arguments for and against opening and how soon is too soon. And the reality is we don't know. And I think revisiting the restaurant conversation has more to do with how do we make the restaurants profitable than it does with the health question. So I don't know of a single restaurant that wants to reopen right now because they can't pay the staff to open if no one's going to come in, or even if 40% of the people are going to come in. That's simply not enough. What we just learned yesterday was 30% of the people said if they opened up the everything tomorrow, they would go out and business would be as usual for them. 30% said, I don't care what you're opening, I'm not leaving the house. And 40% are on the fence, and they're going to go to places they trust. They're going to go to a limited number of places. And that is a huge question mark for business. We don't know where that 40% is going to land and whether or not our businesses are going to be able to reach profitability, considering the onboarding of staff in order to make it work.
Yeah, those are big numbers and scary ones for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Is there anything we haven't discussed that you'd like to discuss?
I think just helping people be aware of how important it is to keep your money in your site. And what I mean by that is when you put your money in a bank, you're still accountable for it. So if that bank is then in turn investing your money in privatized prisons or coal and oil or whatever your value system is, if they are not investing according to your values, then you're still accountable for that. So I would ask people to consider moving their money to credit unions or local community banks in order to ensure that that money is being reinvested right here in our local economy. And also just a basic reminder that supporting these local businesses keeps 4 times money recirculating. It's not just about supporting that mom and pop. It's about that mom and pop then in turn hiring local graphic designers and web developers and payroll service providers, and it keeps more dollars and jobs recirculating. So the public and the consumer in this economy is going to play a critical role in how quickly we recover. If we all decide collectively to sit at home and order on Amazon, it's going to take forever to recover. And so helping people recognize that this is not a linear economy. You don't just spend your money and wait for a job over here. You have to spend your money in a way that's going to create jobs if you actually want for all of us to be able to go back to work. So I think it's that accountability is our main message, and we're here to help you make it easier. So if we can provide you with any tools or resources, if you're a small business owner, please reach out. If you're a consumer that just wants your community back, reach out and we can help you make that happen.
Kimber, tell us how consumers can reach out to Local First. Where can they go to learn more information about Local First Arizona and what the organization is doing?
Sure. I would really recommend that you follow us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, even LinkedIn. We're sharing tons of information, all under Local First AZ. Our website is localfirstaz.com, and we have an entire series of webinars that we've created. We've got a micro grant fund helping small entrepreneurs pay their bills through this time. So please reach out and stay in touch.
And is there a way for people to donate to Local First Arizona to help local businesses?
Yes, at localfirstaz.com, you will see a special page right away that provides people with the ability to donate. That money comes into a fund that we've created that gives micro grants. We are prioritizing single moms. So everybody from beauticians to small bakeries, over to food trucks, people who are handymen, small auto mechanics. So single parents, not just single moms, but single parents and or couples that were both invested in a business that has been shut down and they got children at home. And so if you're interested in helping, I would encourage any amount is helpful.
All right. Kimber Lanning, the director and founder of Local First Arizona. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kimber.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.